so today we're in our second episode of In the Garage. Today my very special guest is Roddy Merritt. Roddy is one of my business partners in MPMC. That stands for Merritt Productions and Motivated Consulting. We host car shows in the central Mississippi area. Our next show coming up is actually Hangar Hangover, and then we'll have South Life and Low Style Expo. I have Roddy on today because Roddy is no stranger to the car scene whatsoever in Mississippi and abroad. He is also the owner of Minty Culture, and that's kind of one of the things that I want to talk to him about today, the joint ventures between the two, and just kind of how you got started into all this, man. So let's just start at the beginning. Just, give me a little bit of rundown of, kind of how you got into cars and go from there.
Car stuff was just, my dad was a big muscle car guy. He grew up in the 60s and 70s, so that was his thing, and it kind of got passed on to me and my brother. And my brother's the one that actually kind of really got me into cars, because he got into Japanese imports, and that was his first car, and he was like, you should get one too. And so we went down the whole tuner avenue of tuning cars, and being from a small little town like Laurel, Mississippi, we started our own little car club there and had car meets. And then all of a sudden the Fast and Furious movie came out, and that was kind of it. Everything
so you
was
guys
set.
happened before that movie?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
We were the guys that were old enough to say, yeah, we started that, or that was us. So when we went and saw the movie, it was like our life on film kind of deal.
Right.
So it was cool. I moved up here to the Jackson, Mississippi area around 2008, and I was going to go to college and get a college degree and be a responsible adult, and try to leave the car world behind, because I was trying to focus on school. And it didn't take me long after I graduated in 2013 that I started going to the local Cars and Coffee here, and that kind of set a lot of things in motion. So I started a YouTube channel because I was selling cars at the time, so I started doing car reviews on the cars that I was selling, and that helped me sell cars. And that turned into an actual YouTube channel where people would invite me to drive their car, to review it, to film it. And that's where the whole Minty Culture thing came from. Was I was looking for a way to have the channel but also have a brand where I could sell some stuff and try to make a little bit of extra money on the side. So long story short, you just kind of get everything set up on social media, and about that same time Instagram was real new. And whenever I got on Instagram, that's a great platform just to share any kind of content. So I just started sharing pictures of other people's cars, and then one day I woke up and I had like 2,500 followers.
Wow.
Which was cool. One of my posts got like 1,600 likes, and then I started reaching out to different people, like, will you tag me in your post, or share my stuff, tell other people about it. Made some stickers, gave those away for free, had window banners, gave those away for free, and I was just really trying to get the brand out there. And the next thing I know, I looked up, and like 2 years later, with the help of a lot of other people and a lot of people pushing it and helping me, I had several thousand followers.
Wow.
And then now to this day, I've got right at 22,000 followers on Instagram.
Man, that's a feat in itself.
It is, and it's weird to think, it started at zero and it grew that way. But that was 6 years ago that I started that account, and there's been times where I've kind of had to put Minty Culture on the back burner, and then I bring it back up, and then put it on the back burner. And so 2021, it's kind of a goal is I'm gonna actually this year I'll actually get to go to some shows as the brand, have stuff for sale, that sort of thing, and just continue to grow it into a company that means something to the car community and that can give back to the car community.
Right. Okay, so one of the questions that I have for you, like you said, is the brand. Like, You have apparel and stuff for sale?
Yeah, I started it out as an e-commerce site, and that's kind of where you can actually go buy things. And I can do really anything. I can make custom anything. Um, so, for instance, if you wanted just a shirt with your truck on it, the picture of your truck on it, or something like that, you have, really people spend a lot of money to go have a photo shoot, and then they have these pictures and they don't really have anything to do. Well, I can put those on a T-shirt for you and sell you the T-shirt without any kind of setup fee or anything because it's all online.
Right. Okay. So we see a lot of people in the scene right now, kind of doing that sort of thing, and not to take away or steal anything from anybody, but how do you see your brand evolving? Kind of like where it was before to like what's the next big thing going to be? And how do you see that kind of transition occurring?
Yeah, I started it out as just being like a little side part of my YouTube channel, and the more I got invested in it, the more I realized there's a lot of people out there that are just they make a brand, they have a following, they sell to those people, they go to the shows as a vendor, and they just sell to those to the people that show up, and it's just another retail apparel business. And what I always wanted, the Minty Culture thing, I wanted it to be a movement. And so that's kind of that's where I want the brand to go. That's why I've decided to step up, because I feel like I've defined it enough now and established it enough that I can go out there and say, it's not just a brand, it's a movement, it's a lifestyle. Where the name came from, we look at cars that we think are cool or we think they're clean. The word fresh, and mint. This vehicle is like that. We say that all the time.
It's freaking mint.
Yeah, it's mint. It's fresh. And
Right.
so I kind of, that's kind of where it comes from. Is we all see something we like, and that's what the brand represents. Is in the car scene, it's cars that you like, cars that you think are cool, the things about the car, whether it's their stance, whether they're static or they're bagged or they're.
I think another thing in y'all's deal is called fitment.
Yeah, fitment, yeah. And so all of that, but what I want the brand to hopefully evolve into and grow into is the fact that it's a brand that is a lifestyle. And it's not just going to the show to make money. It's actually going to the show to support it. So if I go to Memphis to a car show, I can post, hey, I'm going to be here, need all my Minty Culture people, show up at this show, support this show, hang out. And that way that we can continue this community of car enthusiasts. That's what I really want. And that goes along with just about everything I do, but this brand specifically being kind of my nucleus of this is the center of it, and everything else kind of touches from there.
Okay, well, 2 words in your name, Minty Culture. So we've kind of delved on to the mini side of things, and I think this is a pretty good segue into what we kind of do, together as a team, is moving into the culture side of that.
Right.
Kind of give everybody a little bit of background, kind of what your idea and vision was, creating Low Style and then South Life and then Hangover, and what you're trying to do for the car culture period, but more so for the Jackson metro area.
Yeah, I had just been in the car scene. Like I said, I started around 2015, getting back into the scene and meeting some people and doing that thing. So it's been 6 years now since I've been doing that. And a lot of my friends at the time and throughout the years have always said the same things and complained about the same things with the car culture here. They'd say, car culture here sucks. That's what they'd say. There's nothing to do. There's not that many cool cars. Nobody does what they do on the West Coast or in big cities like Dallas and Houston and they're Chicago. They just compared all these things to here, and they were like, we wish we had that. And so 3 years ago, I opened up Low Style Expo, and that was because I wanted a car show just for lowered cars.
Right.
And so that kind of got me started. And once I had a little taste of how much fun that was, it led me to go on to do other things. So I started playing in Hangar Hangover and South Life. Hangar Hangover was a show I've always wanted to do, where it was at an airfield inside of a hangar, and I could just see cars and airplanes together spilling out.
Right.
And the planes flying and people pulling in and things like that. And lo and behold, I was able to meet up with a local group here called the Commemorative Air Force. They're kind of they help instill, the memory and the history of, older World War I, World War II, military airplanes and history and pilots and things like that. They're also kind of trying to preserve that culture. And I was like, that plays right into what I'm trying to do with the car culture. And South Life was supposed to be a show for everybody. It was supposed to be a show that anybody and everybody could come to and enjoy the good things about Mississippi, which is the relaxed atmosphere. You kick back on your front porch, you drinking some iced tea, you're hanging out with your buddies, drinking a beer, whatever. But it was supposed to be that. It's supposed to be this kind of just open, hanging out.
The show for the people.
Yeah, the show for the people. And that was kind of, I based that off of what Minty Culture is, which was supposed to be a brand for the people.
Right.
It's not taking away as much as it's giving back. And so once I had those shows in place and I found myself in them, it's just kind of been growing ever since. The support's been growing. The people that support me, and then meeting guys like you and Heather and just different people that are, have that same mindset of it's not just about a money-making machine anymore. It's not really even about the entertainment side as much as it is about continuously creating and growing that community and offering something that we complain about we don't have, or we complain about that's not that great. So all three shows are very different. All three shows are for different kinds of people. All three shows have their own little thing. They're not the same thing. And the people that really are looking for that, when they come to it, they're like, this is great because this is so different. This is, not everybody has a car show at a baseball park.
Right.
And then last year when we opened it up, I think that just really changed it. Not everybody's having a car show at a hangar with old World War II planes flying around and giving rides, and the pilots are out there and they can tell you all about the plane and the history of it, and this plane was in World War II and this plane flew to Vietnam, and the pilot this one time did this. And then you've got Low Style, which is always around Halloween, that just gives you that fall feeling, and it's kind of like the Fast and Furious scene where they're in the backyard hanging out, eating chicken and drinking beer. That's just kind of what it is. And I love that about all those shows, and that's kind of where I come from, what I want to do as a show promoter. So now I get to say what we want to do and how we kind of have that similar vision of changing culture, growing the community, and just offering something fun and different for everybody.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the biggest things, man. Like, I grew up on the coast. One of the biggest shows around the southeast, with Scraping the Coast, Greg Miller and his guys do a jam-up job every year. And then, I moved to a little town in Laurel, and there really wasn't a scene there,
Yeah.
You had already left by that time. And, Heather and I got married, and I was always just kind of like that oddball guy, I'd pull up somewhere, lay my truck out, and people looked at me like I was crazy.
Yeah.
And then I moved up here and met some cool people, man, started going to Cars and Coffee, and that's kind of how we really, got to meet each other. And I was like, man, this guy really has it together as far as, I know that when I talk to him about something, he's driven by more than just a profit.
Mm-hmm.
The guy is driven by something that matters. And I've always been that type of person. It's the thing that makes me tick is not about revenue and all that other kind of stuff. It's how can I give back? I mean, you know me as the motivator. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. It's about motivating people and inspiring people to be better and to be different and to keep moving forward even in the wake of adversity and stuff. So I kind of got to looking at it, man. I'm like, this guy is already going in a certain direction, and he's got a following and people from the import scene I know tons of people from the truck side of things. I'm like, could we merge it? The first meeting that we had, dude, we sat at CC's Coffee House for 7.5 hours.
Yeah.
Literally, like, my wife called me while we were there. She's like, are y'all okay? And, we kind of laughed about it and stuff, but man, it's like we just kind of jived because, it was deeper than just a surface level interaction, you know what I mean? So, along those same lines, what do you see as the innovative turn or the switch of kind of the ways of old? And I'll say that with shows and stuff like that. What is it going to be that it takes for shows to go into the 2021 and beyond? I know that's a loaded question.
That's a super loaded question. Obviously, we didn't talk about this at all. So, I think it's going to take people. There's good parts of the tradition in the car world, and then there's not so good parts. And the big term or the big word that everyone uses is toxic. That's the buzzword now, and how many people.
But is it somewhat true?
It is. There's a lot of truth to it. But there's, to me, because I've been on both sides of it. I've been in places because I'm extremely passionate about this. It's not just this isn't just something that I enjoy and it's a hobby, but it's something that I'm extremely passionate about because I love the car scene and the car community, and it has helped me way more than it's hurt me. But I have had those times where it's hurt. I've seen times where I've become this guy that everybody was like, oh, watch his videos, check him out, this is cool. Hey, will you film my car, blah, blah, blah. Till months later, not even a year later, but just a few months later, where people, the fangs come out and they just attack you like, your videos suck and you don't know anything about cars and you're not a real car guy and all this kind of stuff. And so it is. There's both sides of that. There's good and evil with just about everything.
Right.
And it can hurt your feelings if you're a feelings person. It can definitely hurt your pride if you're prideful. But it's I think moving forward, what helps us transition is thinking outside the box and being innovative. And
absolutely,
2020 taught us a lot about that because people were having. I mean, I talk to guys and women who are in the car scene that are much older than I am. Who barely know how to use a cell phone nowadays because it's the computer in your pocket. Much less know how to get on a Zoom call or a Google Meet or something like that. And that's how the world was functioning. And I think people now see that was an actual helpful tool that they had never used. And I think you have for a lot of people that will continue to use that. So I just think that going forward, we're not going to be able to keep doing the same things that we've always done. I don't think the park, pay $20 and walk around and look at cars is enough anymore.
Right.
I think that people, you and I have talked about this, people enjoy an experience.
That's right.
They love an experience. And so we all have to figure out ways to incorporate technology. And now we're talking about health and safety in events. It's something that we faced last year.
Right.
And it's stuff that's kind of on the topic of everyone's mind. Is you could host a car show and you didn't have to worry about if there were masks and hand sanitizer and signs and all this kind of stuff. Well, now you have to worry about that. And even if we blow past COVID and that's not, it's just another flu or whatever, I still think that there's going to be an aspect of people are still going to focus on that a little bit more than they used to.
Right.
And so when it comes down to experience, I think that technology is going to play a huge part in it.
Absolutely.
Which is, and we've seen this too, how you register for the show.
That's right.
What's being offered, how do you expose it online and to who and where. So it's still about the cars, but I mean, nowadays the world, thanks to technology and cell phones and things like that, the world has shrank.
Right.
So it's nothing.
There's nothing that's limitless. There's no way to not reach people.
Right. And even down to like building your car, and the builds that we have, and who builds what. I mean, just about any builder in the world is just a DM or a PM away from, a direct message or a private message away from, hey, will you build my car?
Right.
It used to, it was not that way. Used to, it was like, I don't know how to get in touch with Chip Foose. Now I go on his Twitter and send him a private message and be like,
right,
I've got $2 million, will you build me a car, kind of deal. And of course I don't, but there are people out there now that have access to that.
That's right.
So I think that's it, is being able to increase the experience beyond just the physical over into the digital. And it takes a lot more work, because we're looking and seeing that videos and audio and pictures and how it's being translated across a digital device to people results in a better physical show. So I think, to me, that's going to be the biggest change, is that also electric is just huge. It seems like it's been like a slow trickle, and then now all of a sudden it's like everyone's doing electric.
Right, with EVs, and you got Chevy has the Volt, and then Ford has all the Flex or whatever it is, and then then you have all the way to Tesla and stuff like that. So how do you think that those changes and stuff are going to affect these guys who are like, oh, I'm only going to have a short block Chevy and everything, or a small block Chevy and everything?
Well, I think you're going to have some people that are always diehard at anything. So they're always I was an anti-electric anything for the longest time. And I've even noticed being more impressed with what electric horsepower and torque does versus gas power.
Right.
I was talking to a good friend of mine, my buddy Zach. He and I were looking at a guy doing a build. He's doing because he's a truck guy, and so he's looking at an F100 on a Crown Vic chassis with a Tesla swap.
Oh, wow.
And when we went to SEMA 2 years ago, GM had a really, really impressive build that was all electric. And it was an old school truck, C10 truck, but it was all electric front to back. And I just think, I've told people that, I said, we're in the day where modern cars are looking more at how to be efficient, how to give everybody kind of what they want. Everybody's trying to please everybody. So electricity is a thing that we already have at our homes, and it just makes it so much easier to come home and plug your car in than it is to drive down the street to the gas station. You're getting a lot of power and torque. You're even seeing exotic cars and hypercars and high performance cars. They're putting small little electric motors at all four wheels so that they can get that instant torque to catch up to the gas powered vehicle and things like that. I just think that it's going to come to a time where that hybrid technology, more and more people are going to see it's impressive, and they're going to respect it more, and it's going to earn everyone's respect. And you're going to have some diehard guys that goes, nothing beats a 4-barrel carburetor and the sound of a V8 in the morning. There's just going to be those guys, and I love it too. I tell people all the time I'm weird because I can smell exhaust and think it's just one of the best smells in the world. But I think this younger generation, my generation and younger, they're impressed with power. They're impressed with, we're living in an age where cars are making 6, 7, 8, 900 horsepower from the factory. Right. And used to a 300 or 400 horsepower car was a fast car. Now a 600 to an 800 horsepower car is a fast car.
Right.
And I just think that people are looking at cars like a Tesla. That's a nice, cool, comfortable car. They can jump in. They don't have to do a lot of modifications to it. It's already pretty fast. They can put wheels and air suspension on, and they've got a cool show car that's still fast.
That's right.
And that's
right out the gate.
Right out the gate. And I just think that is where we're going. And I think people are going to have to adapt to that. They're going to have to learn there is a respectable technology in that. And that's kind of, I think the scene is going to go more and more to that hybrid, all-electric platform. I think you'll always have classic cars that are respected.
That's right.
And we'll never get away from the fact of wrenching on a car and not plugging in a computer and doing that. But, you know, tuning become a thing, and plugging in that computer, and that guy that's just a wizard being able to get 16 horsepower out of a stock engine just by plugging in a computer was cool. Now the guy that can get 1600 horsepower out of an electric engine is going to be cool. And so I think that those two things, it's just, there's a lot of change and innovation and a lot of things that are added to it. But I think for the community, the way that it continues to grow is to stand together. We're still really, really divided. In America, we see that we're divided, but also, you know, in the car scene, we're still really divided.
Right.
And being somebody that enjoys lots of types of cars, it's really, really hard, you know, to want to build one thing and then want to build something else and be in two different, completely different, you know, groups of people and be like, we all share a common interest.
Right.
And I think though that is really for the car scene, for the builders, the guys that are modding their cars, and for the culture, all of that. That's really where the future has to go to survive. Is that we've got to all learn to kind of enjoy each other's presence. Not necessarily. I'm not one of those guys that's like respect all builds.
Right.
But I do think that you have to enjoy the community for what it is, and enjoy hanging out, laughing, enjoy that you all share a similar passion, learning about new things, learning about stuff that you're not familiar with, sharing your knowledge with somebody else, and you know, it's never a perfect world, but it can be harmonious, and
right.
we can agree and disagree and still be friends, and that's what that's what I want to see, and I hope that somehow I can contribute to that.
Well, I mean, that brings up another good point. So mutual respect. Even if I don't really care for what you're doing, I can keep it to myself. So I know another thing, and I'll just go ahead and, you know, kind of put this out there too. So you're involved in one of the associations here in Mississippi too, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you're a tuner guy. I'm a truck guy. We have classic car guys. We have muscle car guys. We have all these different things. So kind of give me a little bit of an idea about you being in that role and what you're expecting and how you're seeing that take place.
Yeah, it's really funny. I've been mostly an import guy most of my life. I had a little bit of influence from my dad, but and I give him a lot of credit, because when me and my brother started doing tuner cars, you know, he's a muscle car guy. He could have easily said, you know, those cars are just rice burners or whatever, but he enjoyed us enjoying the car scene.
Right.
And I think that gave me a lot of gave me a lot of respect, I guess, now for multiple people and what they do. But it also instilled in me something that I'm now kind of sharing and seeing. It's a lot more fun. A year ago, I got asked to be on the board, to be an honorary board member for the Mississippi Classic Cruisers. I didn't have a classic car. The oldest car I had was from the 90s. Most of these guys have cars from the 40s up to the 70s, and that's kind of where it ends. Most of the men and women that are in the club were, you know, 20 or 30 years older than I was, and so I was very honored that they came to me and asked me to be a part of that. I was even more kind of shocked that about a month after being on the board, they asked if I would be their vice president for 2020. And the way the club works is whoever's nominated as the vice president, the next year automatically becomes the president. So going into this year, I'm now the president of the Mississippi Classic Cruisers. Still don't have a classic car.
Yeah.
And still an import guy, but I also work at a classic collector car dealership that is mostly older vehicles.
Right.
And I've enjoyed all aspects of it.
So basically, they're kind of looking at you and they're saying, well, this guy isn't a young whippersnapper that doesn't know anything about, you know, what's going on, but that word we were talking about, they respect you, even though that's not your cup of tea per se. You can still look at it and say, because it's a car and because of what it is in the community, you know, I can move past maybe my feelings of my style and stuff like that. And I think they see that in you as well, you know.
Yeah. I think the best part about it is like I was talking about earlier, this divide. You know, I think a lot of younger guys don't think they can relate with older guys, and vice versa. And there's this huge divide, and this club was very different in that mentality, and kind of the way they look at it is they're like, well, you're a car guy, and we want you with us. And I have met some amazing people. They've all been extremely courteous, and they give me a lot of respect, which is something is almost unheard of an older generation giving a younger generation respect for anything. You know, this morning I had breakfast with 5 guys that probably know more about cars and have seen more in their lifetime than I'll ever see with mine. But they invited me to their table to sit, and they listened to me. They asked me questions. They asked my opinion on things. And that to me is very something that's lost. And these guys in this club had enough know-how, and they weren't prideful enough to not ask someone like me to help continue the legacy that they have, because we're out for the same goal. We have different interests in cars. It's changed, but they understand that's where the world's going, and that's where the community's going, and that's where the scene is going. So they're like, we want you to come on board and be part of that.
And technically, time is timeless. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds crazy, but you know, my truck this year is 10 years old. So in 15 years, that nice new shiny looking stuff with the big wheels, it's going to be a classic.
Right.
So, you know, in 75, a 50 is a classic, but in 2000, the 75 was a classic. So it just keeps on going.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And so with that, I've engaged a lot more with older cars, classic cars, and it's really cool. Recently, I got to really work hands-on and drive some cars that are, you know, hundreds of years old, and they were the beginning of cars.
Right.
You know, being able to ride and drive in cars from 1900 or 1909, and you know, you're looking at this, and there's no shifter and there's no clutch. You've got these dials on the steering wheel that advance the timing and give you a little more here and there, and you know, some of them don't even have a steering wheel. They've got a stick that's like a tiller on a boat. You know, that's how cars started. Right. And now here we are driving cars that practically drive themselves now.
And from Henry Ford's first thing, I don't care what color it is, you can have it as long as it's black.
Yeah.
You know, to now we have wraps, and we have all of these iridescent paint jobs, and I mean, just look at the evolution of the car itself, man.
Yeah. And I love all of that. I just find a fascination with it. And that's the thing, is like, there's so many people that are missing out on that. Same with the truck scene is you know, I've never been into it. I've always thought that bag trucks and lower trucks, mini trucks, all that stuff was cool, but I've never been in or around any of it until I really met you, and now I love it. And same with lifted trucks. You know, I've always had an appreciation for a good build or something that looked good lifted or whatever, but now I've gotten into that more thanks to, you know, my friend Zach. And so it's just like a little bit of open-mindedness will lead you down a path that you didn't know that you really enjoyed, but once you get there, you're like, oh, that's cool. And I too, I laugh a lot of times because I'll see something from the tuner world come over to the truck scene.
Right.
Or something from, you know, classic muscle car world comes over to the tuner world, and I'm like, man, they were doing that back in the 60s, and everybody's like, this is the new thing. And I'm like, man, that was happening a long time ago.
I know, man, like in the 30s and 40s, you know, we hear about body drops and things being chopped and channeled and all. I mean, they've been doing that forever. It was just called something, or it looked a different way or whatever, you know. And then I almost kind of am hindered from saying the word evolution. You know what I mean? But it is. It's that thought process of it just getting better and better and never ending. And you know, we all see this clash sometimes, you know, of, I know, speaking personal experience, you know, my truck is bagged, it's not body dropped, and people have static trucks, and they're like, oh, you know, so you got like the static group over here, and then you're better if you're bagged, and then you're better if your body dropped. And they're like, you can't be on 20-inch wheels anymore. They got to be 28s or better, and they got to be billets, and all these kind of things. And it's like, we just kind of have to get to a point inside of that community to where it's like, let's not forget, where we all started. I sat in my dad's garage and hammered my first truck, with a grinder, cutting the springs and putting blocks on it and stuff, man. And so the evolution as individuals, we get better, and then we expect more and more and more. But it should be, we expect more and more and more from ourselves.
That's right.
Not that guy has to have what I have, or he can't be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because when we all stop and look at it, man, and we back up, I mean, it all started with horses.
Yeah.
And then buggies. And then it went into, and then, so here we are, hundreds of years later, just like you said, man.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I tell, at work we have one of these little things on display. It's a little capacitor. And it was the original kind of the battery alternator generator. It's like the first one ever. A lot of people call it generator, whatever. And it's a wood box. And when you open it up, there's just a few little wires that go here and there. But that's how it got sparked.
Right.
And now here we are with. I tell people all the time, it's like, that would be so cool to have that in like a Tesla museum where you got that, and then you got the car, and it's like, this is where you came from. This is your genesis.
Right.
And the same thing is we have a car called an RCH, which is it's an old. It just looks like almost like a wagon, and it's got a little one-cylinder engine in the front. But it was the beginning of GM. And I tell my boss all the time, it's like, it'd be so cool if we had this and a C8 Corvette sitting side by side, because it's like the beginning and where we are now.
Right.
And it's like that. It's just cool to see this is where you started, and now we have this.
Right.
And it's the same with the rest of the culture, man. It's like it is. It's like, I remember when I was growing up, lowering your car meant lowering springs and good shocks. Then all of a sudden the trend became coilovers, and if you didn't run coilovers and you ran bags on your car, well, bags were not as good as coilovers because the performance was worse or whatever. Well, now everybody, they put bags on everything.
Everything.
Bag everything because it's cool to lay out.
That's right. Like LS swaps. LS swap everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And really and truly, the import scene has really just now started accepting bags more. It's become the stance, that stance movement, and that stance look. Well, you guys have been doing bags forever.
Right.
And that's the thing, it's like, you guys share a common interest if you just would not be so egotistical and just kind of mesh and learn to hang out.
Now even in our culture, more you see the splatter paints and
right.
All of that kind of stuff, and you see people sticker bombing full size trucks,
Yeah.
and I'm like, who would have thought? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So neon, that's the thing that used to. They were always like, oh, that's cheap. Don't go down that aisle at AutoZone. And now it's like everybody's like, neon the world.
Yeah.
And you got neon inside of wheels and everything.
Underglow,
else.
and then wheel circles, and now they actually have best underglow trophies and stuff at shows, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and I remember being 16 years old with my first Blazer. I went to O'Reilly's and got the little, they called them thunder sticks.
Yeah.
They were about this long, and man, I hooked them up to my amplifier, so when the bass hit, the lights would glow, and that was the coolest thing ever, man. And then now you can get them to where they do all kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Man. You can program them and everything.
Oh yeah.
So going forward, even to that evolution, even more. So man, I'm not gonna let you get out of here without doting a little bit. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and share a couple of the upcoming things that we have. And I know we don't have a lot of exacts for certain dates and stuff, but let's go ahead and put that out there a little bit.
Sure.
We have Hanger Hangover coming up.
June 19th.
That's right.
Father's Day weekend. It's in Madison, Mississippi at the Madison Air Center. I found that out. They kept calling it the Madison Airport, but it's actually the Madison Air Center is what it's called. It's a great show. It's not a huge show, but it's kind of a boutique premiere kind of show. We'll have a few different ticket options once you get all the details. But you can actually park in the hangar and park next to the hangar, and they told us today that they're going to be doing airplane rides. You can ride in old World War II airplanes, and it's like basically like $100.
Yeah.
And they'll ride you around for 15 or 20 minutes, and they'll do barrel rolls and all that kind of stuff. You can relive your Smallpox days.
Pretty much whatever your stomach will handle.
Yeah. And we'll have food and ice cream and all kinds of great stuff like that. And
that show is actually benefiting the commemorative Air Force.
Yeah. It helps us kind of give back to them a little bit in a way. Then we have South Life, which will be at
Trustmark Park.
Trustmark Park. It's home of the Mississippi Braves, and tentatively that date is going to be at the end of July. So just circle the end of July and write South Life and don't do anything else.
That's right.
Unless we have some kind of crazy, pandemic that closes everything down, which I don't think we will. I think everything's going to be good by the summer for sure. Low Style Expo is always around Halloween, and that's just a super good. Come hang out, relax, chill around the bonfire. Eat a weenie and drink some beer.
That's right.
And then of course, go check out Minty Culture. All you gotta do is put that in Google, and everything pops up. You put that in Instagram, it pops up. You put it in Facebook, just type in Minty Culture, and it pops up. So it's populated real well. And I'm excited. For all of that stuff this year, and so
we got a lot of things in the works, man. A lot of tricks up our sleeve.
Yeah, can't tell you everything.
That's right. Can't let the cat out of the bag yet, man. But go give Roddy a like and a follow on all of the social medias. And just keep your heads up, guys. Cool things coming. Look out for the next episode of In the Garage. Thanks, Roddy.
Thanks, Jake.